let's talk very, very quickly about Derby. And I want only sensible takes. So the situation is that Derby were charged with an FFP infraction at the end of last season as it pertained to the valuation of their stadium in a stadium sale and their player amortization. Derby were then found not guilty of the charges. The EFL appealed, and as I understand, the EFL only appealed about the player amortization, not the stadium valuation. So let's not be talking about the stadium valuation. That's not what was appealed. If Derby are now, as the Daily Telegraph are reporting, if Derby are now found guilty on appeal, which we're hearing they may have been, it will be about player amortization, which is to do with the ratcheting of valuations of players as it pertains to their contracts, how much they've paid off, how long left they've got, etc., etc. It's very, very clever stuff that goes way over my head. Now, we know that the sporting sanction for breaking the 3-year FFP limit, which is 13 million loss per year for 3 years, so 39 million over a 3-year period. We know the sporting sanction is 12 points as a start, but there is then a sliding scale depending on how much the breach is by. If the breach is more than 15 million, i.e. they have lost, what would it be? 39 add 15 would be, I can't add up, 54. Then it's definitely going to be 12 points. And then there's a sliding scale. So unless you know what the breach is by, you won't be able to give me a number for what the points deduction would be. Okay. We also know that the sporting sanction is affected by mitigating factors. For example, Birmingham basically went to the EFL and said, look, we're guilty. We want to help you with your inquiry. They got a point back, basically, for, I forget what the legal terminology is, but you can get mitigating factors. So what we know is that Derby were not found guilty. They appealed. The EFL then, the EFL appealed the decision on the basis of the amortization stuff. And we think, possibly, this has been hush-hushed, but it's either the Times or the Telegraph have gone with it earlier today, think that the appeal has been upheld. So Derby would have been found guilty. Now, remember, we have to go retroactively and cycle back. So this was the accounts that were published in the last season, wasn't it? So we're talking the end of 2020. So it's probably the end of the 2019-20 season. We're probably talking the 2018-19 season where the actual number befuddling has actually taken place, if indeed they are found guilty. So the sporting sanction is supposedly meant to take place the season after the breach. Okay. But for some ungodly reason, the EFL gave Birmingham their sanction during the season of the breach. So this is utterly all over the place. I cannot tell you what will happen. However, if Derby are found guilty and their player amortization means that they go over the 39 million threshold for that period, which may be, I don't know, 17, 18, 19, 18, 19. I don't know which 3 years it's going to even end up applying to now. Who knows? I think it'll be 17, 18, 19 from my understanding of the timeline. If they are found guilty, then they will be a points deduction, which is 12, unless the breach is by less than 15 million, in which case it could be less, or if there are mitigating factors, in which case there could be points taken off. Now, in the example of Sheffield Wednesday, it was argued that for the integrity of the league, because the punishment was given after the season was finished, it went on to the next season. So if the Sheffield Wednesday case is anything to go by, then there's no retroactive punishment. i.e. we wouldn't get a situation where Derby would be deducted points having been found guilty after the season is finished. I suspect that that would not happen. So if you are expecting Derby to now be deducted 12 points off the season that has just happened, I don't see that happening. But potentially, if they are found guilty and the charges landed now after the season is finishing, it would be then added to the next season, which means Derby potentially could be deducted 12 points next season. What we do know is there haven't been many cases. We're talking Birmingham, who were deducted 12 points. No, 9 points, wasn't it? For the rolling 3 years. And Birmingham were found guilty in, I think, August or September, and then charged around March, and it applied to that season. And it's written clear as day in the EFL handbook or rule book that it should go the next season. I have no idea why Birmingham had the deduction during the same season. With the example of Sheffield Wednesday, the charge came, I think it was around Christmas time, and then it's normally about 6 or so months to investigate it. And then the punishment came at the end of the season. So their points deduction went on to the next season. And of course, we know they successfully appealed against the EFL to get that deduction from 12 points down to 6 points. Please don't get confused about Wigan, who was not an FFP issue. That was a -12 for going into administration, which is a completely different matter. So I don't know what is about to happen, but we will see what goes down. My prediction, without knowing how much the breach is and without knowing if they're even guilty, is that Derby will be facing a points deduction next season if they are found guilty. And that is my understanding of the situation. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend to understand player amortization. Go and ask Kieran Maguire about that. So we will see. And when you're hearing people talk about the deduction and how many points it should be, remind them of the sliding scale, that if the breach is under 15 million. So basically, if someone's giving you a points number without knowing what the breach is and what the number is that they've exceeded FFP by, they're talking out of their backside, because you can't give the points deduction without knowing how much it's been breached by in terms of millions of pounds. And also, you don't know if there's any, is it a flagrant breach? Have they played ball? So there could be points taken on and off. So basically, if you hear anybody giving a number, unless they're very, very much in the know, and the only people that would be in the know are the arbitration panel, frankly, I know the Times or the Telegraph or whoever it is think they know. They may know, but that would be my contention. Okay? Does that all make sense? Now, I know we're going to get a lot of outraged people, but I think if you are punished after the end of the season, however strongly you feel, oh, this team should have stayed up, that team should have stayed up, it does say in the laws that it goes on to the next season. So, you know, just make sure when you're debating this, you're not one of these football fans that just wants chaos, basically. Let's observe the laws, and if someone's broken them, let's punish them by what the book says and what other people have been punished by. Okay?